If you ever had a second chance, you better be thankful. If you ever had a second time around,
man, I've been through it, I lost out and I'm faced with defines wrong. Feel no hope, bad thoughts choosing to die, go home. When I was sitting up on that Greyhound, my mind went through these zones like you got none. Lost everything, is no good, feeling alone. Hey, pockets had no dollars, life didn't make sense. How did I end up back where I started, what did I miss? I went from condos to Pop's house, on calls, now bus routes. And the one person who had the key to my heart took it and checked out.
What up, it's your boy Paul P. I serve God, I'm not God. This is just my opinion. And welcome to another episode of the Nothin to Somethin podcast. Man, we have a special one here for you guys today. Today, we have someone who I believe is one of the funniest comedians to ever do it. Been doing it for a long ass time. A very long time. You know, he used to do his thing on MADTV and still killing it, going strong with some of the best comedy we see out here. I'm telling you, straight up. For real. You know, today we have the one and only AriesSpears.
What's happening, Captain?
What up, brother?
What's good with you, baby?
Man, you already know we in Cali. We in LA, so it's always
a little foggy
good.
today. Seemed like a little bit of fog, overcast, but so I'll take it, man.
Yeah. You know, we spoiled.
Very much.
You know, being
much.
out here, you know, we always get the sun, so we get a little fog. We like, damn.
The women, the weather, and the weed, man.
Yeah, real talk.
Can't beat
it.
it.
Nah, not at all. So, this is your first time here on the Nothin to Somethin podcast, and here on this podcast, we like to get your story from the beginning to the end. You know, to where you at now. You know,
right.
So we're gonna start way back. So going back, you were basically born in Chicago, but moved to New York when you were a young child.
Yeah. My origins is technically from Chicago, but right after I was born, I was shipped up out of there, and basically grew up my whole life in from New York and New Jersey. Wow. Up until I moved out to LA when I was 17. So, you know, I know they say, you know, home is where you lay your hat. Yeah. So for me, my hat, you know, my New York fitted lays in New York, even though it's like, you know, technically, I'm from Chicago. Because, you know, Michael Jordan technically, well, he claims North Carolina, but he's from Brooklyn.
That's true.
He was born in New York.
That's true.
Tupac was born in New York.
Yeah.
But he claimed West Coast.
Yeah.
So home is where you lay your hat, man.
Yeah. Okay. Nah, that's real. So okay. So is that saying that you kind of on the LA side now? You been out here long?
No. Listen, I love LA, man. Okay. You know, and you know, New York is my heart. But whenever I go back to New York, man, 2 weeks I'm ready to go. Yeah. I'm ready to come back here. Yeah. Because, you know, I came out here, like I said, when I was 17, and everything kind of became mine for the first time. Gotcha. You know, becoming a man, owning anything of any substance, my first home, my first car, my first real relationship, that all took place out here. So for me, even though New York will always be in my blood, I love LA. Yeah. You know, I mean, listen, I got a crib here. I'd eventually like to get a crib in New York, but even if I did get a crib in New York, LA is like, I just love LA, man.
It's the home. It's the home turf right now.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Got you. Okay. So going back to New Jersey a little bit, what was it like, your childhood growing up out there in New Jersey?
You know, it was cool, man. I mean, you know, I was never really I don't know how like a rags to riches story, you know, like I grew up poor. But there's levels to everything. You know, I grew up poor in terms of not a lot of space, you know, had mice and roaches in the crib. But I didn't grow up like in the projects where I'm like, you know, you hear gunshots at night and you know, you got a target on your back, you know. So there's my level of poor, and then there's when niggas really be struggling. So, you know, thank God my mother, through, you know, working 2 jobs and busting her ass, made sure that we weren't at the bottom of the barrel, but we wasn't far from it until eventually things got a little bit better, and then we moved from New York out to New Jersey, where, you know, she put us in a better surrounding, better environment, better education. And she worked hard to do all that. So, you know, grateful to Mom Dukes, man.
Man, dope. I always say you got poor and then you got po. You wasn't
right.
po.
I wasn't po.
Okay, got
poor,
it.
But I wasn't po.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so you was raised by your mother, you know, single mother and everything like that, right?
My father, he was in and out. And maybe towards the later part of my life, he and my mother eventually got married, and he moved in with us. So, but yeah, he was sporadically in and out until I got a little bit older. But he wasn't completely negligent.
Got you. Okay. And your mother was a jazz singer, right?
Yeah, it still is.
Okay, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, jazz and blues.
Yeah. What was that kind of like rub off on you?
Yeah,
you know
absolutely. She had a picture of her because she used to open or perform with Lionel Hampton, legendary jazz artist. And at one point, he performed for Reagan at the White House. So she had a picture of her singing at the White House. And, you know, she's toured all over the world, been to several different countries and stuff. So, you know, jazz music was a heavy influence growing up.
Yeah.
You know, Thelonious Monk, Charlie Parker, you know, Miles Davis, music period, but especially jazz music.
Got you. Now, what about siblings? Was you an only child, or did you have brothers and sisters?
I got a sister, same mother, same father, but then I got 2 other brothers and a sister, different mother, same father.
Got you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Close, close, tight knitted.
We were closer when we were kids, but you grow up and then just sometimes you just go separate ways, and life happens in certain ways where you just don't keep in touch as much as you would like to.
I feel you on that. Especially too, my parents divorced and had kids. Dad had kids, mom had kids, and we're not as close as saying the first set. So those things happen.
Traditionally for me, family has never been for me what I would have liked it to have been, or what it is for most people. 2 people who I consider my brothers, like my brothers, aren't even related to me by blood. My 2 best friends in life, my boy Ivan and my other dude Ish. These were guys who I knew since 4th and 5th grade to this day. So, we've all watched each other get gray hairs on our chin. We've watched each other get married, divorce, have kids, go through trials and tribulations. And I'm closer with them than I am some of my actual blood.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way it happens sometimes, it ain't always going to be, the people who I, grew up with as family going to be the closest with. Sometimes it's your friends and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes life is not traditional for you.
Yeah. Facts. Yeah. So growing up, as a kid, would you say you was more of like a person who stayed out the way, or would you say you was a little troublemaker at times? A
little of both. A little of both. And I think that when I'm an Aries, April 3rd. And when, if you know anything about that zodiac sign, we're fiery, we're creative. We like to be in the eye of the storm. And that's kind of where we get our creativity from, the chaos. So as I've gotten older, I've of course mellowed out more. But man, I love action. That's what I'm saying. Like like this joke I do. I'm like, look, man, when it come to pussy, I'm spoiled. I'm from New York. I live in LA, and I've been to Miami. So you can't get me to be, interested in chicks from Iowa. And if you've ever been to Iowa or the Dakotas or Omaha, there's levels to shit. The level of pussy ain't the same in Iowa as it is in New York and LA and Miami. You know what I mean? It's just different. So, man.
Yeah. I always say too, when you get a lot of people from every state, the homecoming queens, the prom queens and all of that, they come to LA or New York. You know what I'm saying? So we got the best of the best.
Well, that's the thing about
LA. From every state.
Right, because that's the thing about LA. Every chick that migrates here is either trying to be an actress, a singer, a dancer, a model. So they're all coming here to be groomed to be that, which means, whether it's natural or whether it's surgical or, their whole being is about beauty, trying to compete with other bad chicks. So LA, you can't miss. New York is such a melting pot of cultures that you're going to get a lot of bad chicks, Hispanic, Asian, white, black, whatever. And Miami, listen, I don't even call Miami. When I go, I call it mi mommy. Because I go, listen, man, if you got a sweet tooth for Spanish chicks, from scalp to cuticle, them some bad bitches. Woo! Oh, goodness. So you imagine me trying to, my mouth is going to salivate for some chick, in fucking Omaha. It ain't happening, B.
Oh, man, that's comedy. So basically, as a teenager, you started getting into the comedies, real early.
Yeah.
Around 14 years old, you started performing in comedy clubs. Mm-hmm. How did you get started up into that so early?
Guy by the name of Bob Sumner, and I know a lot of people credit Russell Simmons and Stan Lathan for Def Comedy Jam, which was the explosion of black comedy on a major level. And yeah, of course they get the credit because their names are on the bill. Russell Simmons, Def Comedy Jam, and produced and directed by Stan Lathan. But Bob Sumner was really the dude that started it all out of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Cats like me, Bill Bellamy, Derek Fox, Hamburger Jones, and all those guys. We all came up in that tri-state area, and Bob was the brainchild behind the concept for Def Comedy Jam. So big shout out to Bob. But yeah, if it wasn't for Bob, I used to say Hollywood only gave niggas one shot per decade. One comedian per decade. Red Fox, heavy influence in the 60s. Maybe you could kind of throw Dick Gregory in there too, but really it was I would say between those two, more influential was probably Dick Gregory. Then of course in the 70s you had Richard Pryor, 80s you had Eddie Murphy, and by the 90s, Chris Rock seemed to be the guy at the forefront. But once Def Jam exploded, now you had more than just one to pick from. So to go back to answer your question, Bob was the guy that saw me, and through connections with him and my mother, she would take me to the clubs that he would go, hey, go here, go there. And she would come escort me and be with me because, of course, they serve liquor, so I couldn't be by myself. Had to be accompanied by an adult. So she would, take me to the spots. I hang out in the back, I do my time, and after that, we split.
Wow. Yeah. So at this time too, around 14, when you was really getting into comedy, that's when you met a lot of, cats like Bill Bellamy. Yeah. So y'all come up around the same areas.
Yeah, I mean, comedy and is regional a little bit. Everybody's got their cliques. Like, Chicago was Bernie Mac and George Wilburn. LA, whoever it was out here in LA, Boston, the Boston scene, the New York scene. So everybody got their cliques, and you stay kind of within those communities from a regional standpoint. And then, once you blow up to bigger levels, then you branch out and everybody knows everybody because we all running in the same circles.
Yeah. Dope. Now, at this time too, you were still going to school, right?
Yeah. I dropped out of school when I was 16. Got my GED.
Okay. So you were still going to school and everything like that. I know there was a situation or incident where you got expelled, right, from school?
Probably a couple times.
Yeah. Now, what was it like? Was it like you was a class clown? You was getting into it with teachers? Like, what was it that kind of?
I always knew at a young age that school was pretty much bullshit. It's like, other than basic arithmetic and reading and writing skills, what are the skills that you get from school that are useful to you in real life? Unless you're a contestant on Jeopardy, I don't need to know about 18th century Rome. You know what I mean? It's like, where some of the things you learn mathematically, where do you apply that in real life? And it's funny because when you look on Instagram and social media, I follow a lot of these entrepreneurial sites and memes and stuff like that, and stuff about wealth and financial literacy. And they all say the same thing, which is basically school is bullshit. It's to keep you running, being the hamster in the wheel, to work for rich people while you bust your ass your whole life. And that's not going to get you rich. Because the thing that's going to get you rich, they don't teach you in school.
Nah, not at all. Not at all. They teach you how to be a working employee.
Exactly. So that's why it was like, for me, not liking school from the get-go, I just went, why am I here? Nothing I'm learning here is of interest to me.
And
I already knew what my passion was. And, you know, again, my mother being a jazz singer, she understands creativity. You know, she understands that energy. So thank God she was like my, you know, Joe Jackson without the abuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. So you really right about that. You know, because I always say, you know, and you hear this all the time. I dropped out to start my business, and you hear this about all the billionaires. You know who, you know, Donald Trump, all of them. You know, who dropped out of school and then, you know, started, you know, with Bill Gates, all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Ain't it crazy how you hear that? So it shows that you're right when it comes down to that. You know, and. Hey, I would say definitely when I started my business, there was nothing that I used that came from school.
Right.
Probably just learning math. You know what I'm saying? That's about it. You know, so it's facts to that.
Yeah, it's made to breed sheep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad I got caught up. I didn't get caught up in that.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit down the road, you got into Def Comedy Jam, but you got into this. You was getting into this stuff early, man.
Yeah, like I said, started at 14. By the time I did Def Jam with Martin, I was 16.
Damn.
And did Showtime at the Apollo at 17. Then moved out to L.A. Probably later that year. And then, just the rest is kind of history, man.
Yeah. Now, you know, becoming a part of these things so early, you know,
right.
Eventually, like, let's go back to getting into Def Comedy Jam and meeting Martin and everything. You know, was this just like, I'm supposed to be here, or was you like, damn, like I'm here?
Because that was my mindset. I mean, you know, I'm Eddie Murphy, who I'm sure has influenced so many people, but for me, it was a little bit more personal for me because I was such an Eddie Murphy fan, and me and my dad, one of the special bonds that we shared was watching him on SNL every Saturday night. That was like appointment TV because I was born in 75, so I'm really an 80s baby.
Yeah.
So I was there right when Eddie hit, and I remember my pops took me to go see 48 Hours and Trading Places, and I was hooked. I said I want to be that dude, and I did a little bit of research. He and I have the same birthday, April 3rd. He's an Aries, both from New York. You know, and I just took all of that as motivation to go, I'm doing this. I want to be that dude.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing that I was probably really grateful for in regards to my parents. They never sugarcoated anything with us. Like, they would watch movies where there was cussing, nudity, hardcore violence, and you know, at 6, 7, 8 years old, we sat right there with them and watched it. You know, being around some of my uncles and aunts who would come over, play spades, and you know how colorful black folks get.
Yeah.
You know, we get that liquor in us. You know, motherfucker, niggas, I done told that motherfucker, Willie, sit your ass down. You know, bitch. You know, so I grew up in that environment, which I think was the best thing for me because it was like an advanced class in the streets. You know what I mean? It's like two educations. The education you get from school, which, you know, is the fluff, and then the education from the streets, which is the real shit. And you need both. I think you need a little bit of both. So I was able to get that. And the fact that my parents never masked me from that, I'm grateful to them, man, because I think it added to my comedic cocaine, man. Yeah.
Dope. That's what's up. Okay, so one thing that I can tell is that I could see, you know, when you talk about the stories, the passion, you know what I'm saying, that you have for, you know, being in comedy, you know, and everything like that. So, you know, you could tell this is something from day one. You knew early on, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, how you know, that's one thing we didn't touch on. How early was it that you knew you was gonna be in comedy? Was this like, you know, 5, 6, 7? Like, how early was it for you?
No, I probably figured it out around 12, 13, because I always knew I wanted to be famous and I wanted to do something in the way of performing. I just didn't know what it was, and my dad was a huge boxing guy, so that's another thing that he and I did together. He would watch the old Ali fights and, you know, George Foreman, and I would watch it with him, and that was fun for me. So I became a boxing fan. So I thought, you know what, let me try boxing. But then I realized you gotta work out. You gotta eat right. You know what I mean? And I come from a mother from Mississippi and a father from Tennessee, and salt and grease was main ingredients in our house. Everything fried. So I wasn't necessarily trained or pushed in that direction in terms of proper diet and discipline. Yeah. So as much as I love boxing, the ingredients that it takes to be successful at that. Yeah. So then I thought, you know what? I like, again, coming up in the 80s, the birth of hip hop, and I was, a rap fan, Run DMC, LL, the Beastie Boys, Fat Boys. So I was like, man, I'm going to be a rapper. Yeah. And then, when you put your ego away, you just realize you don't have the skills for that. And I respect the art too much to half-ass it. Now, if I was coming up in today's era, I could be a star because of how garbage rap is now. But back then, when content and quality mattered, I just didn't have that skill set, man. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I smoke a little weed, have a little drink, and really concentrate, I can rap. But I'm not no rap. I would never in a million years call myself a rapper. When you look at the greats, the icons, LL, Jay-Z, Nas, the real spitters, Eminem, Jadakiss. Come on, man. There's levels to this shit. Yeah. And I would embarrass myself if I tried to act like I could rap like that for real. But I can, accidents. I can do an accident.
You got some bars.
Yeah, I can accidentally spit some fire now. 1 time, 2 times. It's almost like them dudes is so consistent with it because it's who they are. It's like, let me put it in weapons terms. Like, them motherfuckers is like an AR-15 or AK-47. Pop, 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 rounds after rounds. My ability to rap, I'm like a 1776 musket shot. I got 1 pow, and then you got the reload, the stick. I take a minute. Yeah.
1 good shot. That's
One
it.
good shot. That's it. Yeah. That's it. My reload is 8 days, nigga.
Yeah. And one thing that you mentioned too. So you don't think none of the rappers now got it? Because you said not now. You can jump in now and do your thing.
Dave East, Kendrick, J. Cole, Benny the Butcher. There's some dudes out there. Was it Lucas Joyner?
Yeah. Joyner's Luca.
Joyner's Luca. There's some cats out there. But my argument is always, back in my day, I sound like an old man, but back in my day, the 90s era, the golden era of rap, and early 2000s, quality was in abundance. Yeah. The garbage was, you needed a magnifying glass to find the garbage. Now it's the reverse. The garbage is in abundance. The quality rappers, you need a magnifying glass. Yeah. Them niggas is a needle in a haystack. So, the game is reversed now, though.
Yeah. I mean, rap is different nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Because, people just putting out videos now. You got social media and everything like that. So I think rap is very cluttered. It's a lot. You know what I'm saying? But I still think it's a lot of quality artists out there. It's just so much going on.
So much garbage now.
Yeah,
it's hard to find the quality amongst the garbage. It's more garbage than it is quality.
Yeah.
And like I said, people are hit. When I get into arguments with people online about this, they go, "Man, you got the underground, the quality rappers. They're not the mainstream and the radio play. They the underground." It's like you got to go find them. You got to look for them. Yeah. Whereas in the 90s and the 2000s, you didn't have to look. They were there.
Nah, yeah. I mean, that's facts. That's facts. It's different. It's different. Kind of before we go back to the story, kind of touching on rap, right now, I don't know if this is something you notice more in the 90s too and everything like that, but now you also notice that we going through that era right now where we just see everybody, videos come out when it come down to snitching and rap. That's like the topic right now. Snitching, ratting. You have 1090 Jake right now exposing everybody. Boston Rich. You know what I'm saying? 03 Greedo. You just seeing this a lot. First, did you notice this like in the 90s era? And what? How do you feel about rappers' careers just being ended left and right because they have these videos popping out of nowhere of them snitching in the interrogation room?
It's a different game now, man. This I call it the goofy era. A lot of goofy shit going on now that we just didn't do back in my day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And to be honest, even when you mention some of this, it's a head scratcher for me because at 48 years old, I don't even really keep up with what's going on now. Yeah. So, like anytime I do like Vlad TV and he'll name a rapper from today and what's going on, I'm like, I'm going to be honest, man, I don't even know what you're talking about. I just, you know, I'm at that age, man, where it's like my rap fan jersey is about to be hung in the rafters. I'm about to retire, man, because there's just nothing out here for me.
Yeah. So basically, now getting into your move to LA and everything like that. So first and foremost, what led you to end up moving to LA, and was it kind of like a struggle? Was it difficult when you first, came out here?
I moved to LA because you gotta be in it to win it. So, like whenever people ask me, what advice would you give me? I'm trying to do comedy. I'm trying to get into the acting game. I'm going, well, you can't win the game living in Dayton, Ohio. You can't win the game living in Detroit, Michigan. Yeah. You can't win the game living in Portland, Oregon. You got to go where the game is. Yeah. The game is LA. It can be in New York too, but predominantly LA is the Mecca. So, get off the bench and get in the game. Yeah. So I knew I wanted to win it, so I had to make the move. And it's scary when you don't have and I don't even want to say backup plan, because to me, I've always felt like having a plan B is setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. If you believe you're going to make it and this is what you're going for, then you don't need a plan B. You don't need a backup, nothing to fall back on. So I was like, man, I'm going out there and I'm gonna do it. Ain't nothing else. I'm gonna do it. But it's scary because my aunt was living in South Central at the time. I had an aunt named Joanne, her daughter, my cousin Janelle, and they was staying rented at a house owned by this old lady, where they just basically shared a room. And of course it was kitchen, everything, bathroom, but they shared a room. So she arranged it so that I could rent one of the rooms. And I hated it, man. I'm fish out of water. I'm somewhere I'm not familiar with. I knew enough to know I'm staying in South Central. So be careful, And I'm staying in this one room in this old lady's house. I had my aunt, my cousin, but but it didn't last. That didn't last long. I was there, and what brought me out here too was at that particular time I was choosing between who I was going to sign with to be my manager. It was either going to be somebody that worked for Russell Simmons, but I knew I wasn't going to be dealing directly with Russell Simmons, so that kind of was like, I don't know. If it was Russell himself, I'd have said fuck that. I'd have been with Russell. Yeah. But it was like either Russell Simmons, this other cat who was kind of a little bit, lower on the totem pole, and then Debbie Allen's husband, who was managing people at the time, Storm and Norm Nixon. Yeah. And, he was managing Carlos Mencia, AJ Sanders, Ken Sagos, and maybe one other person. But my whole drive was, I want to get to LA anyway. Yeah. So let me do that. Yeah. But what was really enticing was Norm flew me out to kind of like, let me get a taste of it first. Yeah. First time getting on an airplane, first time leaving New York, getting to LA. I stayed at Norm's house. Norm lived, near the beach, Santa Monica. Wow. Big fucking house. I'm seeing what money looked like, the beach, LA, palm trees, women. Yeah. It didn't take much to sell me, man. It really wasn't gonna take much to sell me. And I wanted to be here anyway. I just went ahead and signed with Norm, and he was like my first manager. And then things just really took off fast, man. Like Debbie was producing and was the showrunner for A Different World. Okay. So I remember I did 2 episodes of A Different World, both with En Vogue, was the special guest. And again, everything is happening to me for the first time. So I'm seeing this shit where it's like, if you're not used to this and this is what you want to do, and now you getting it, it's like somebody going, look, I ain't never done cocaine before, but try this hit. Yeah. Now I'm coke, nigga. Yeah. Now I'm like, this shit is amazing. So I got a taste of LA life, LA glitz, glamour, everything. Yeah. And I just was like, damn. And so, back then networks were doing something they don't do now, is what they gave out what was called holding deals. Okay. Where if they saw you and you were a unique talent that they felt they wanted to fuck with, they would give you a shitload of money to basically take you off the market for like, a season, TV, a year for TV. while they try to develop something for you. So I remember when I had I went to the taping of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and D.L. Hewley was the warm-up. And I had worked with DL before at a gig, and we did a gig together in Detroit. And he was like, yo, my man is here, young dude in comedy, just did Def Jam 16. He gonna do some guest material, some guest spot for y'all. The AriesSpears, he gave me the mic. I did about 5 minutes. And I remember the reaction. I looked over my shoulder, and everybody from the cast of Fresh Prince was at attention. Wow. Will was standing there looking at me, mouth open. Everybody was just like, who the fuck is this kid? And so word got around fast that I'm this hot young kid in town. And then before I knew it, NBC offered me a development deal. And I went through every network where they gave me money, but we never developed anything. And you know, that's the seduction, is the money. You know, you want the opportunity to actually produce something, because that leads to more money. But again, for a 17-year-old kid who's seeing all this for the first time, you couldn't tell me I didn't make it. You know, even though I really, in my mind, I didn't make it, because nothing ever came of it. I just went from NBC to ABC to CBS, all back to back to back for 1 year, making tons of money, but nothing to show for it. So long story short, my last development deal was with Fox. And I remember when I first auditioned for year one for MADTV, they wanted me, but I couldn't do it because I was already locked up into a situation. But then by the time my deal was about to be over with Fox, the president of the network at that time, Peter Chernin, was like, man, I don't want to let you go. I know we were supposed to develop something. I know we didn't, but I don't want to let you go. I want you to have a home here at Fox. I tell you what, they wanted you from season 1 of MADTV, and it never happened. And since you're here and that show is on this network, just we'll put you on Mad. And by that time it was season 3 for it was season 3 for them, but my first season. And so then I just got on MADTV and was there for 8 years.
Wow, dope. And but before that, you was doing like little gigs and everything like that.
Yeah,
you got like you first was Malcolm X, right? Was that the very first?
I was an extra in that. Okay. Yeah, I did extra work in that.
Okay, and then after that, but you got the Jerry Maguire, you know, Cuba's brother, you know, and everything like that. You know, how did
I got little things sprinkled, you know, throughout the journey of my career. But I always say, to me, my career has always felt like one big aw shucks, because it was like, even though things have happened for me, and I'm not trying to seem like I'm ungrateful, and they all have been blessings, the things that I could have done or should have done that would have, I think, catapulted me to another level, those things didn't happen. For instance, like, you know, I remember I was offered the role of I was offered a part in the movie, I want to say it was called Junior. It was with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito. It was the movie where Arnold got pregnant. Ivan Reitman at the time was one of the biggest comedic directors in the game, but I couldn't do it because I was locked into another situation where they wouldn't let me out. I remember I did a pilot called Crosstown Traffic, produced by Aaron Spelling. Now this is the dude who, remember, at this time in the 90s, Melrose Place, Beverly Hills 90210, everything he put out was fire.
It's popping. So
I shot the pilot. It was like a mod squad. It was called Crosstown Traffic. I shot the pilot, but it didn't get picked up. Ah, shucks. I got offered the Arnold movie, but I couldn't do it. Ah, shucks. Like, I got a lot of these moments where it was like, I'm grateful for MADTV. It gave me a name. It definitely took me from nothing to something. But had it been SNL, it'd have been a totally different ball game. Oh, shucks. So I've had a lot of all shucks. I did the show, the Underground with Damon Wayans on Showtime, sketch show. But it only lasted a year. It could have went further, but Damon, I guess, had issues maybe with Showtime. And, you know, prior to that show, Damon had done In Living Color, My Wife and Kids. He had his own sitcom called Damon. You know, he'd been in movies. He don't have to he ain't starving.
Yeah.
So if he don't want to do something because it don't feel right to him or for whatever reason, he has that luxury.
Yeah.
Whereas a cat like me and other cats that was still trying to really put their foot in the door, we're like, damn, nigga, we come on, Damon, work that shit out, nigga. Oh, shucks. So it's weird. I just feel like my career has always been both a blessing and a weird curse.
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing, like when you look at the age and the things that you was doing early, Def Comedy Jam, on stage with Martin and everything like that, right. You was right there. You was always with that group, the D.L. Hugleys, the Martins, right. the Chris Tuckers, and all of them. So what you say, I like the way you explained it, but would you say that it was MADTV that kind of like stopped you from like, progressing, and taking off like Chris Tucker, D.L. Hughley, and a lot of them? I
just don't think that MADTV ever got the credit that it deserved or the respect from the industry. People that watched the show, people that knew the show, they'd tell you in a heartbeat, man, that shit is funnier than SNL. You guys are killing it.
So basically, when it come down to like you doing MADTV, and like you said, you was doing it for about 8 years, and everything like that. So you wouldn't necessarily say it was what prevented you from taking off like the D.L. Hugleys, the Chris Tuckers, and all of them.
I don't think. I just don't think I've had that shot yet. That major, whatever that is, something in film, a movie role, television. I just don't think that I've had that major hit yet.
Gotcha.
MADTV, again, for what it was a very popular show, won a couple of Emmys. Certainly with, when I go on the road and I get, people in their 20s and early 30s go, man, I grew up on you watching MADTV. I was a kid when it's almost like we got the parents of Saturday Night Live kids as our fans. But again, the industry never, and it was weird because we had some of the biggest names in music and entertainment as guests on our show, especially musically. We had Gwen Stefani and No Doubt, Missy Elliott, Usher, Wu-Tang, Susan Sarandon, Kathy Bates, we had some pretty heavy hitters, Shaq. But even with that, the industry, it's like even our own network, Fox, like the lead into our show would be the 11 o'clock. Well, we came on at 11, the 10 o'clock news.
Yeah.
So, we would have a major guest on like Shaquille O'Neal or Wu-Tang. And when the news would get ready to wrap up their segment just before us, they would go, all right, and that's it for tonight's news. MADTV is next.
Yeah.
You don't even mention who the guest star is. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Fox never ran commercials during any point in the day or during some of their big hit shows, like, ads for MADTV this Saturday night with this guest during Malcolm in the Middle, or whatever some of the hot shows on Fox were at the time. So we got no support and love from our own network.
Yeah.
Let alone the rest of the industry. So I always kind of felt like we were like Cinderella. We was the prettier of the three sisters, but we stayed locked in the basement. Nobody just because when you look at Saturday Night Live and you think about the powerhouse that has been, it's been around for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
All the stars that have come from that. There are people that have gone on from that show to do spinoffs or movies based on certain characters that weren't even popular characters on the show.
Yeah.
And because of because of the lack of popularity from those characters on the show, when they went on to do the movie version, it tanked.
Yeah.
Well, it's no wonder it tanked. It wasn't a popular character on the show. But my point is, those movies still got made.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is? Because that brand, SNL, that name, that brand was so strong, and because of the history behind it, the movie got made. With MADTV, it's like no movie was ever made off any of the popular characters. And two of the most popular characters was Miss Swan, for the fans that know, Looking Like a Man, that character, and the Stewart character, the grown man child. So I'm just going, Jesus, man, like, it's almost like felt like I was Dominique Wilkins. I was a great player on a bad team. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter how great Dominique was, he was never going to win a championship because he was the only guy. You know, it ain't like the Bulls where you go Michael, Scotty, Dennis, a great coach, Phil Jackson. You know, we were. When I say we, because look, when you look at the talent from that show, even if you completely remove me from it, you know, Deborah Wilson, Nicole Sullivan, Mo Collins, Will Sasso, Alex Bornstein, Michael McDonald, Stephanie Weir, at least 7 to 10 people who were monsters on that show. That were phenomenal talents. So yeah, you can throw me in that mix, but really none of us, I felt like, was given opportunities past that where we should have all been bigger. All of us should have been bigger.
Now, do you feel like if you didn't do MADTV, do you think that you would have been on them blockbuster hit movies, you know, like you saw with the Chris Tuckers, the DLs, the Chris Rocks and all of them? Do you think so, or do you believe that, you know, you was just so focused on MADTV, you know, that wasn't the direction that you was going?
Just bad timing, I guess, because like I said, some of those movie roles I could have done, or I was offered, but couldn't do it because I was contractually locked into other situations. So that's why I keep going the all shucks moments. Like, it's one of those what ifs, you know? What if I had been able to do the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? I remember I got offered the part in, remember Sister Act 2? My man that does the Oh Happy Days.
Oh shit.
I got offered his part. Couldn't do it because I was locked in a situation. So again, you sit back and you think to yourself the what ifs. What if I would have did Sister Act 2 with Whoopi Goldberg? What if I would have did Junior with Arnold Schwarzenegger? What if the pilot of Crosstown Traffic produced by Aaron Spelling, what if that had gone through? My very first show that I did before MADTV was a hour action drama called South of Sunset on CBS with Glenn Frey, formerly, may he rest in peace, of the legendary rock group, the Eagles. And the way that situation kind of played was like, look, when I auditioned for that, as a matter of fact, and again, this is one of those where I didn't even really audition. That show came out on CBS. I had a holding deal with CBS. Stan Rogow, I believe, was the main creator. And I forget the main writer's name. But they basically were like, yo, we saw this dude perform. You got the part. So I was cast before my co-lead. And I had auditioned with some actors who were really like, you know, solid heavy hitters. One of which was Clancy Brown. I forget the movie he did with Jamie Lee Curtis, the cop movie. But Clancy Brown had been in that movie with Jamie Lee Curtis. He was the main guard in Shawshank Redemption. This dude had chops. But, you know, the thing about show business is sometimes they want the glitz and the glamour more than the substance. So they wanted somebody that could bring some pizzazz to it from a namesake. And, you know, Glenn Frey is, you know, part of the Eagles, you know, he's a legendary rock group. But the issue was he wasn't the greatest actor. So he had issues with his acting for the original 22 episodes that CBS bought for the first year. And he eventually hired an acting coach towards the end of his run. But by that time, we had already shot a shitload of episodes without the acting coach. And again, acting wise, it just wasn't that great. But he was upset at the fact that he was like, look, I got an acting coach now. I want us to reshoot all the shit that we already did. You can't do that.
Wow.
That's too much money, man. Even with, and we had a big budget. We shot all over LA on location. It was a big deal. So he had already pissed off the network, which was a huge red flag. And then on top of that, when we originally aired in LA, we had the fires going on. So we didn't even air in LA. We were up against the World Series. So it's like, we don't air in LA, a major market, because of the fires. We're up against the World fucking Series that was going on at the time. And our competition for that time slot was Home Improvement, the #1 show in America. And we got slaughtered in the ratings. We got fucking slaughtered. Shucks.
Damn.
Like, what if there was no fires? What if we didn't compete against the World Series? What if we wasn't up against Home Improvement? What if he didn't piss off the network? You put all those things together, might have been a different turnout. But what if? What if? And it's funny because I'm sure when your people see this, hear this, they're gonna see the final, polished, perfect product. They're not gonna know that this motherfucking mic and everything shut down 2-3 times while doing this. And the reason why I bring that up is because I was telling my man, what's my man in here?
Big Dom.
Big Dom or Don?
Big Don.
Don. I was telling Big Don when you left, I said, this is a fucking prime example of what my career has been. Man. Oh, shucks. I'm in the middle of some shit. The lights go out. The sound stops. It just has not been a smooth fucking ride. My whole career has been like this moment today. In the middle of some shit, searching for perfection, and shit just shut down. Now I got to go talk to a Mexican who don't even understand me because he keep doing this shit. This is my career, baby.
Oh man,
a bunch of shits.
Oh man, and you know it's so crazy too. You was talking about Sister Act 2.
Yeah.
The dude who sung the Oh Happy Days, he actually went on to join a group called City High.
Yes.
And get Grammys.
Yes. And I met him. I eventually met him and was like, hey, my nigga, love back.
Okay.
And I told him about the Sister Act 2 and all that.
So you feel like that would have been you right there getting those Grammys on?
No, because
that all shucks.
No, because I'm not a singer and I can't do what he does. But again, remember this, Sister Act 2. This is a sequel off the hit movie, Sister Act 1. This is Whoopi Goldberg, who at that time was, a big deal, and it certainly had a hit movie under her belt. So it would have been nice to be a part of something like that because work begets work. So if you in this industry, you're only as good as your last thing, and if your last thing was a hit movie, a hit series, a hit whatever, it helps for you to get the next gig. So, without that hit, they look at your resume and they go, okay, well, once upon a time ago, you did this. Once upon a time ago, you were in that. And as great as that may have been, as respectful as that may be, it ain't, what did you do yesterday? You know what I mean? This game is very high school, man. It's clicks and popularity. Who's hot, who's not. When you often would like to believe it should be based off your performance. Do you bring talent. Your talent? Are you worthy? Are you good? And the rest will take care of itself. But this is the game, man.
Do you feel like you was one of the people who really pressed the needle, and you wasn't in them circles when it come down to the most popular crews and everything like that? Do you feel like
No, I don't think I am. Okay. I don't think I am, and it's a weird thing because I know, and I've often said this in interviews. If I put it in kind of like boxing terms, there's the people's champ and then there's the paper champ. You want to be both, and by that I mean the paper is the industry, the people are the streets. You'd love to get the recognition and the admiration and the respect from both, a la KevinHart. He's the people's champ and the paper champ. The industry loves him and the streets love him. I'm the people's champ, man. On paper, I'm not that dude to the industry, but to the streets, I hear it all the time, man. You one of the GOATs, you're a legend, nigga. The streets show me so much love. It's bananas. I almost feel like that line from Jadakiss' song, Why my buzz in LA ain't like it is in New York? Like, why my buzz in the industry ain't like it is in the streets? So, but I'll take it because the streets help me keep my lights on.
I mean, no, I knew you was new out here because even when I was telling the big homie, I got a Friday show with Cowboy. And I was telling the big homie, I got Aries coming down. He's like, oh, that's the bro right there. So I was like, okay, it's some familiarity there, and everything like that. So I'm like, okay, Aries is connected.
Listen, my hope and my goal and my wish is that,
Yeah.
The streets keep me afloat long enough.
Yeah.
To where maybe I can make the two ends meet.
Yeah. Definitely. So moving along, you eventually, after MADTV started focusing on doing stand up with Cedric the Entertainer, right? For the All-Star Jam. Or you did that a little bit.
Yeah. That was something that was created about by its own entity. And of course they've run off to make a bunch of those. I just happened to be part of the very first one ever. Which was Cedric hosted, me, KevinHart, D. Ray Davis, Tommy Davidson, and then that was the very first Shaq's All-Star Comedy Jam produced by Shaquille O'Neal, and then of course they went on to make 5 or 6 or however many they've made now.
And like I said, you killed it on that. You always killed it on everything you did. You know what I'm saying? So that, and then we started seeing you in some music videos here and there. But to be real, I started to really notice you again when you started to pop up on interviews and different things like that. And eventually on one of the interviews, it was a clip that you went viral on where you mentioned LIZZO, and everything like that. Your LIZZO clips. Bro, you say some of the funniest shit when it comes down to LIZZO. But what I want to ask you is, like, when you say certain things, like, are you serious? Or are you joking? Like,
a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Okay.
And treading those waters has come with a price too. There's prices to pay for everything you do, especially in a game where every camera is a magnifying glass, and egos get bruised easily, and you're dealing with certain people's temperaments in terms of what they'll allow and what they may not allow. So man, I it's like every day of my life is Vietnam, nigga. I don't know if I'm ever coming home.
Oh man, do you think that doing interviews and everything like that, and talking about different topics, help you like kind of like build a new lane for yourself?
Again, with the streets, yes. With the industry, probably not so much. Man, I'm opinionated, and in this game and in life, the word hater is so overly used now. Like if you have an opinion, you're a hater, and it's like, so what am I supposed to do? Go with the grain and just go follow the crowd because that's what everybody's doing? If I don't like something, I don't like something. If I feel a certain kind of way, I'm expressing the truth about how I view it. And now having an opinion is deemed that hate. And I try to be as transparent and as honest as I can. And the genius of a Dave Chappelle is that skit he did when he said keeping it real goes wrong. There are times when keeping it real can go wrong. And I've certainly learned, have been an example of that. Definitely. Now, did you feel a little bit like what goes around comes around or anything like that when you did see, because eventually LIZZO she's getting sued right now and everything like that, right?
So when you seen that situation and everything like that, did you feel like, well,
no, there was no kind of like vindication.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, if I had control of it, I wouldn't want to see her in a pickle. You know what I mean? Because for what? I know how hard it is to navigate through this thing called life and show business, trying to be righteous and, live on the straight and narrow and do right, let alone having to deal with bullshit. So, I don't wish the sister no ill will.
Definitely, man. Moving along and everything like that, you eventually just did a interview with Adam 22 as well on No Jumper. And everything like that. I saw the interview. I think you did. It was a great interview. Just by the way, I got little things with Adam, but at the end of the day, I think that it was a really great interview. But I started busting up. You did kind of like go into talking about the sex tape that his wife had, and everything like that. I'm not saying that you would ever do anything like that or go into that direction, but what are your thoughts
I would never
that type of situation?
No.
Yeah.
Culturally, black people, you know, we come from a place where we just don't do certain things that they do.
Yeah.
You know, and ain't no brother, no real nigga allowing some dude to pipe his broad. You know what I mean?
Man.
With or without the camera. You know, so that's some goofy white boy shit. I said it on Vlad, and I said it to Adam to his face, and I'm saying it now. That's goofy white boy shit. You know, I say jokingly, I've had white dudes come up to me after my shows, man. Oh, dude, I fucking love you. My girl, she thinks you're awesome. You should fuck her. And I go, dude, you can't even respectfully compliment a black man about his woman to him. And brothers, hey man, look, bro, I just want to tell you, man, your girl is gorgeous, brother. You got to win her. All right, thanks, man. But nigga, go ahead with that shit. Niggas don't play that, man. Yeah. That's white boy shit.
Yeah, and I'm glad you say that, man, because when I was saying that, you know, because we have a little show we do, Just Kicking It, where we just talk about different topics. When I was saying that, people was like, oh, well, nah, it's just a people thing. It's not just a white boy thing and everything. I'm like, nah, we don't do no shit like that.
We don't do shit.
You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
you know,
one of my favorite shows to watch is MTV's Ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Because it really shows you, and listen, I love white people. I ain't got no problem with white folks. But they have no boundaries.
Yeah.
Them motherfuckers have no boundaries. They do anything and everything. Niggas got limits.
Yeah.
You know, we don't get down the way they get down when it comes to certain shit. Yeah. I look at that show and I've seen some of the most grotesque, animalistic, savage-like behavior I've ever seen. I just go, black people, we don't have a history of that.
Man.
Now we might go steal everything out of Target, wearing all black and run out of there. But we ain't playing with feces and, you know, drinking dumpster juice and letting some other dude pipe our women.
Nah, not at all. Not at all, bro. You know what I'm saying? We got too much ego and pride. I ain't gonna lie. We got too much pride for that.
We just not nasty. You know what I'm saying? We not nasty.
Yeah. Facts. You know, so jumping around a little bit. You got kids, you know, you know, and everything. So I asked that because, you know, we have a situation where you know, Boosie, you know, he have a little bit of a back and forth going on, you know, with not just his baby mama, but his daughter, who, you know, called him a bitch ass nigga, and, you know, he took her out the will and all this other stuff going on. You know, it's always our community. You know, I'm like, I never really see this type of stuff in these other communities. When it come down to, like, you know, going on live and, you know, the kids, bitch ass nigga, you know, all the stuff that we see in between, you know, our community. It's unheard of, or it feels weird because we're seeing that now. But culturally, and, you know, I don't know how old you are. I'm 48. Yeah.
But anybody,
mid-30s,
anybody my age and older, and the further we go back in the generations, we got our asses whooped. Our parents whipped our asses.
Oh yeah.
The neighbors might whoop our ass.
Yeah.
Now black folks don't even really physically discipline their kids no more. I don't think
that's a fact.
And I think that you know, this weird goofy society we live in, we've gotten away from certain things culturally. But culturally, when you go, I don't see that in other white kids have always talked crazy to their parents.
Yeah,
they've always the white kids and their parents have always had a what's the right word I'm looking for, like a like a colleague like relationship, like we're on even terms. You know, 15-year-old Billy, I told you clean your room. Fuck you, mom. You know you don't ever clean your room. Well, that's true. They got a democracy. Black kids, we always had a dictatorship. You know what I mean? Our parents was Stalin, nigga. Was you know, you do what the fuck we tell you to do, and that's it. And if you don't, you get your ass whooped. Yeah. But, you know, kids today, white kids have always done that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's right. You know,
talk to their parents disrespectfully, and
but have you ever saw like an online back and forth the way that we're seeing with Boosie and his daughter?
Yeah, that's some new shit.
You got songs being made, diss songs.
Yeah,
you know that's being made,
that's
and
new shit.
Daughter, bitch ass nigga. I hope you go back to jail and all of this. Like I'm saying, when it comes down to that, that's different though.
It is.
And you know that right now in mainstream media, that's our culture. You know, when it come down to it, you know.
Yeah, it feels like to a certain degree because of this thing, this cell phone, this social media, which is both a blessing and a curse. Mm-hmm. We're all trying to compete for likes, and we're trying to compete for, you know, camera time and fame, and in an effort to compete and keep up, we have to do like the Joneses.
Yeah.
You know, we have to start doing what they do, and I think that's scary and sad.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, and I like that. I like what you just said. You know, because a lot of times I ask these questions to these topics. You know, to get game. You know, because a lot of the these things are like, okay, that's how I could go viral. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Let me create some confusion or create an issue and stuff like that, so I can go viral, not knowing that, hey, there's gonna be consequences behind that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, and everything like that. So yeah, man. You know, we also just had a situation too. I heard you speak on it a little bit. Tory Lanez, he just got sentenced, you know, and everything. What were your thoughts on that whole situation, and what are also your thoughts on him getting sentenced?
But I think this is something that Vlad brought up to me too that I wasn't that familiar with.
Okay,
because I've kind of heard the name Tory Lanez. Lanez, is it?
So you don't know nothing about Tory Lanez at all.
And is this hip hop?
Yeah, hip hop and R&B.
Yeah, 48, man.
Yeah.
It ain't really my territory no more.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you when it comes to that, you know. So like moving along and everything like that, you know, films and all of that, you know, like I say, right now you're doing your thing on social media, you're doing interviews. Is there any like film you got that's coming up or anything that you're working on?
I'm working on something with a couple of writers that I think is going to be very hard to pull off. But if I can pull it off, I think it's going to change the game.
Yeah.
And I don't want to jinx it, so I don't want to really get into it. But yeah, I am working on something.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it come down to it, it's like a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've seen a gazillion of these type of films, but we've never seen it with this POV.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah. Got it. All right, we definitely gonna be looking out for it. You know, getting into like a little bit of the comedy side of things. You know, I wanted to ask you. You know, who are your top 5 comedians? Do you got like any favorites when it come down to comedians? You know, growing up and everything. Or
I always treat this like a two-part question, because to me there's the Mount Olympus, the comedic gods.
Okay.
And then there's like the Mount Rushmore, which is below that. So for my Mount Olympus, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, I'll keep it to 4. Red Fox. You know, sometimes you feel like you got to throw a certain somebody in there just because, like, you ain't got a white person or you ain't got a woman. For me, it's really Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox. God, if I had to throw a woman in there, even though she's not a comedian, stand up, I would say Whoopi Goldberg.
Okay.
Because her one woman shows, especially back when she did them in the 80s, were groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And being a black woman, to do some of the things that she was talking about, some of the characters that she was doing with those points of view, was phenomenal. Today, I would say, God rest his soul, Patrice O'Neal would be on my Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
Dave Chappelle, who I think is the GOAT. Tommy Davidson, who is so explosive comedically.
Okay.
And Bill Burr.
Yeah. Wow, you got a lot of a mixture, but a lot of old school greats up in there, you know, as well.
Well, yeah. You know, I mean, that's the Mount Olympus, is the old school, but Tommy might be considered old school, but Dave, I think is rather current. Yeah. Even though you could say he's old school too, because he started at 14, and I think he's like 49. Yeah.
Wow. When it comes down, see, I'm big fans of like comedians. Like I like Cat. Like I said, I like you. Mm-hmm. You know, Kevin, he dope and everything like that. Do you look at when it comes down to more like the newer generation of comedians? More like these are my peers. I can't really see them as like legendary greats because they're your peers. Or do you see like when it come down to the Cats, the Kevins, and all of them as legends as well?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you have to give Kevin his just due, because what he's been able to do, especially in terms of box office, is just box office and stand up. I mean, he does arenas. You know, he packs 20,000, 30,000 people in one place. You know, and his box office receipts don't lie. So you have to tip your hat to Kevin for that alone. For me, comedically, in terms of style, in terms of potency, he's not my guy. I prefer a Patrice O'Neal or a Dave Chappelle. But again, you can't deny his impact on the game.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when it come down to it too, you know, I'm really into comedy. Mm-hmm. You know, I would love to see something with you know, Kevin. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, Cat. You know, everything like that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It always seems like we never get exactly what we want to see. You know what I'm saying? It's like in boxing. Well, we never get who we want to see in the boxing. You know what I'm saying? The boxing match. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's again one of those things that I've never been able to quite understand about us as black performers. You know, there should be a dozen movies with ensemble comics. Yeah. You know, as powerfully funny as Mike Epps is, Eddie Griffin, Dave Chappelle, KevinHart, Cat Williams, Earthquake. Where's the movie with all of those guys together? Yeah. Or even if you took 2 or 3 of them and put them together. Yeah. Where are those movies at? And the fact that those movies have yet to exist is insane to me. Yeah. You know, when you look at Harlem Nights, even though I don't think Harlem Nights, to me, it's one of that and Life is 2 of Eddie Murphy's most underrated movies. Yeah. But in terms of box office, they didn't do what Beverly Hills Cop did, or Beverly Hills Cop 2, or 48 Hours, or Coming to America, or Trading Places. They didn't. But nonetheless, you know, you look at Harlem Nights, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Red Fox, you know, those were the main big 3 comedically though. But yeah, how come? Where's the movie with Chris Tucker, Dave Chappelle, Cat Williams together?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Where is that movie at? And the fact that movie doesn't exist. That's insane to me. Yeah. That's insane.
That's crazy. You know, we never get, like I say, we never get what we want. You know,
well, I think I think part of that is our own doing too, because we've always been, like, you know, trained to be of the mindset of I've got mine, now you get yours. You know, crabs in a barrel. You know, or better yet, I remember comedian Speedy, who was always Jamie Foxx's right hand man. He said the Scrooge McDuck mentality, mine. You know, and from slavery, that started, that mindset, that behavior goes all the way back to slavery. You know, house niggas better than the field niggas, light skins better than dark skins. So that's been ingrained in us for so long that I think it still affects us today. Because I look at what one of the biggest studios in Hollywood, DreamWorks, Steven Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen. You know, where's that studio with black folks? I know Tyler Perry is a big deal, but Tyler Perry is his own entity. Where is the combination between Oprah and Michael Jordan and Eddie Murphy? You know, how come 2 or 3, 4 black people of big name and billionaire status can't get together and create our version of DreamWorks? So we're not always coming to them with hat in hand. Please, boss, can you please feed me? I need you, please. You know, why are we still doing that? So, you know.
That's a fact. That's a fact, man. I mean, you broke it down, you know, perfectly. I just think that when it comes down to the way you broke it down, there's conversation amongst y'all who could, you know, be a part of seeing those things, you know, change and happen, you know, creating those films and everything like that. You know, y'all the ones who got to really have the conversation when it come down to it, you know, and everything.
I think we jerk each other off a lot. And I'm not just saying us. That's the way the industry is. It's a lot of lip service and a lot of smoke and mirrors. But it's unfortunate because, you know, we need each other more than they need each other. This is their business. I always call Hollywood white people's FUBU, for us, by us. It's their business. It's for them, by them. We happen to operate in it. So I just go, you know, for however opportunities there may be for a black performer, there's quadruple that for a white performer. So I'm just going, God, if we were really about Am I My Brother's Keeper? If we were really about what we say or what we should be about, man, we could. There's no telling what we could do. You know, this particular movie idea that I'm working on with these two writers, I went to about 3 or 4 different black writers, and I said, "Hey, I want to do this. Can we do this?" You know, 2 of them may have said, "Yeah, I don't know if I really want to touch that," and that's fine. But then the other 2 were like, "Nigga, I'm with it. Let's do it."
Yeah, yeah.
I'm calling you. You don't pick up. I'm chasing you. You give me excuses, you know. So then now I gotta go. I'm taking the idea to a white guy to write it, and he's willing to do it, and really willing to do it. So do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm trying to be black fist in the air. Come on, brother. But when I keep getting the lip service and the bullshit and the runaround, what I'm supposed to do? Yeah. Keep doing that. Yeah. So now, based on what this movie is, knock on wood, I get this thing done, it blow up. The feedback will then be, how could he have a white person do that? Well, I was coming to y'all, and y'all was turning your backs on me, and y'all was bullshitting. So what I'm supposed to do? You know what I mean? Yeah. This is the dilemma now. Yeah. So come on, man. Yeah. Sometimes we do it to ourselves, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
because we do it to ourselves because we won't do it for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I could tell it's something too. I mean, you should, because it's your craft, something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely. So, anything that I try, anything that I do, I'm passionate about.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because it's my name out there. It's my face. It's my likeness. It's me.
Yeah, yeah. You know.
Yeah.
Facts. You know, Aries, I'm only, you know, I actually spoke on it at the time. I'm only gonna bring it up because I spoke on it. Anything I always say that I speak on, I want to make sure that I bring it up if I'm ever sitting with that person. But you know, at the time, you know, when you know, the clip and the video came out with you know, you, Tiffany Haddish,
can't touch that
situation. Okay,
can't touch that.
Okay, got it. You know, let me just say this. I'ma just say, because I want to say this right here. You know, I spoke on it, and when this whole situation happened, I basically was one of them that was saying, you never know what happened with this situation. So to look at anybody in a negative way or negative light, that's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Right. I was one of them who was sitting here saying that because I'm like, you wasn't there, you don't know what happened. You know? So the only reason why I'm bringing it up to say my part, because I brought it up before, and I would look like a fool to have spoke on this and not, when sitting here with you, say something about it. You don't got to say nothing. But I want to say, at the end of the day, nobody know what really happened or what went on. And I just want to say, you know, from day one, I was like, look, we don't know what's up. All we know is that when it come down to Aries, he always put out good work. Tiffany Haddish put out good work. And, you know, you got to take a step back from that and let the process, whatever process is supposed to happen, let that happen and stay the fuck away from it. You know what I'm saying? So so that was kind of like where I stood with it. So that's all I'm saying. I just want to put that out. So later on, if you see like a clip, hey, Paul P did this and he didn't bring it up, I just wanted to bring it up, and I'm going to leave it at that, you know? Right. So yeah, as we kind of get to the end, you know, another thing I want to ask you as we get to the end, you know, the AriesSpears, do that come from like your sign, like being the Aries? You know,
I don't know really what sparked my mother to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that I don't know that there's any real backstory behind that. I've never asked her that, I don't know, but I'll take it. I'll take it because of what the Aries and the zodiac sign stands for and what it means. I'll take it.
Yeah. Got you. Moving forward, also when it come down to like the comedy world, you know, and everything like that, in a community.
Yeah.
Is it anything that you working on or got in a place or something that you want to do when it come down to like helping out the next generation of young comedians that come from the community? Because like you said, you connect to the streets, connect to the community. Well, is it something that you want to put in place to help out the new generation of young comedians?
Well, I can't help anybody else until I'm in a place to do that. So my biggest concentration now is trying to put myself in that position. To where I can do that. And I'm not there yet. You know, I you know, people assume that because you're in show business, you got a gazillion dollars, you're more powerful than you really are. You know everybody, you have all the connections, and a lot of times that's just not the case. You know, most people aren't rich in this game, unless you are, you know, truly top tier, big time, you know, talent. But most people aren't rich, and most people, you know, we rub shoulders with a lot of people, but again, a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. A lot of motherfuckers are full of shit and dishonest. So yeah, it's not what people think. The average Joe trying to get in this game, some of the assumptions they make are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so far from that.
Yeah, man, I respect that. You know, that's what we need, though. We need more individuals like you to tell the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
a lot of these young cats, when you go to the streets or you go to a lot of these young cats, they look at a lot of celebrities and like,
Right.
oh, I want to be like that, not knowing
Right.
what you got to go through
Yeah.
and not knowing that you're not always successful just because you're a celebrity and
Yeah.
famous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I always say you don't got to be a basketball player,
Right.
entertainer, or whatever
Yeah.
to be successful.
Yeah.
There's other stuff that you could do out there, right?
Yeah.
But we need more like you to speak up and say, hey, this is not what you think.
I mean,
I'm
even-
not saying you
even-
can't be successful,
Right.
but don't just automatically expect if you a celebrity,
Right.
you just the richest dude out here.
Listen,
that ain't the way
to
it
put
works.
it in perspective, on paper, $5 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. But when you consider that if you're making $5 million, you know, you're in a certain tax bracket, half. So the government is taking half. Your agent gets 10%. Your manager gets 10%. That's 70% of your money gone. Wow. After 70% of 5 million, that's what you got. And so you need to make $5 million times 50. So that by the time you get through that 70% bullshit, now you might have some money. So, you know, on paper, somebody go, man, I just heard motherfucker in the movie part got $5 million. He rich. No, he not. And then once you get the 70% gone, your woman gonna take her cut. And then you got bills and your mortgage and the houses and fucking bills. And so, yeah, no.
Yeah. Nah, that's real. That's real, man. I appreciate you breaking that down because that's something, like I said, a lot of the young kids out here, they got to hear more and more individuals speak on that, who they look up to in the industry and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So, real talk. You know, one of the last questions that I always like to ask, you know, Aries, is what does nothing to something mean to you?
Say that again.
Nothing to something. What does nothing to something mean to you?
Oh, like this right here.
Nothing to something. What does that mean to you?
You know, it's accomplishment. You know, it's an accomplishment. But I don't think the goal stops at something. What's beyond something? You know what I mean? Nothing to something. What's beyond something? You know, is there ever enough? You know, and that feels like an individual decision to make. But, you know, you could go from having absolutely nothing to eat to, you know, a hot dog. That's nothing to something. But is that the end all be all? Is a hot dog? Or you want, you know, filet mignon or some lobster with butter sauce and, you know, caviar if that's your thing. You know, you might be content with the hot dog. But, and that's going from nothing to something if you're starving. But what do you know, as an individual, what do you really want? You know, my manager Norm used to always say, man, don't let this business define your happiness. So whatever defines your happiness, you know, nothing to something might be enough for you, or it might not even be anything. Just depends on what you want. You know.
Yeah, facts. You know, last thing, you know, I want to ask you, you know, moving forward, man, what is Aries, you know what I'm saying, got planned for the future, man? What do you see? What do we got coming from AriesSpears? You know,
sometimes I feel like I'm just on God's good humor,
man.
you know, yeah, I envision a lot of things in terms of where I see myself and how I want to be, and I'm striving to try to make some of those things come to fruition, but life happens, man, and it sometimes feels like, you know, we as human beings are life's biggest punchline. You know, you can plan all you want, you know, you try to, you know, put the work in and do everything you want to do, but life has a way of going, watch this. And when that happens, woof, you know, so
man.
I don't know, man.
That's real talk, man. Any shout outs, you know, last words or anything like that?
Check out my podcast, Spears and Steinberg, available on all streaming platforms. Our YouTube channel, Spearsberg Pod, or slide up.